Alright, welcome back to my Majesty bass build. I'm Mark with Ethereal Guitars, and today I'm coming back to this plank of wood that I'm using to test my model to find out if Fusion is correctly configured to cut this thing out right. It's been glued up. Don't mind the shop. I'm in the middle of a shop cleanup project right now. Everything's being reorganized and not everything has a home yet. So I've already kind of gone through and scraped off some of the excess glue. I'm going to go through and unclamp this thing and run it through my planer for just an initial scrape, and we'll go from there. I love these pipe clamps. They're relatively inexpensive. I know a lot of guys are using bar clamps, and I've got a few. But for me, I'm a pretty practical person. Bar clamps are very practical. These pipe clamps, they're inexpensive. I can make them any length I want. I can tie them together. I can just buy new pipe and move the clamping mechanisms to it. They're just very functional. I do wish I had better standoffs. One of these days I'm going to get a 3D printer and I'll make some standoffs for my cheap pipe clamps. I like my little planer stand. I was trying to figure out how I was going to store this underneath my bench. And I came up with all sorts of, flip tables, but this is a tall planer. Flip table doesn't really work. It's pretty heavy too. But I ended up buying a motorcycle stand off of Temu. And this has worked out actually extremely well. The only thing I don't like about it is the jack itself kind of leaks. But not that bad. And the nice part about this is I can raise this up to the level of whatever it is I'm next to, and I've got an outfeed table. Basically everything is my outfeed table. So this has worked out pretty well, and it was cheap. Like I said, it was just a cheap motorcycle stand. And I just now remembered that I can't run this through the planer just yet because this is too wide. I got a 13-inch planer. I think it's 13 inches. So I need to run this through the table saw and trim a little bit of this off so I can get it through the planer. So let's get that set up. All right, so I've got my saw fence over here set at about 13 1/4. I'm going to run that side through, flip it over, set it at 13, run the other side through, then we'll run it through the planer. Oh yeah, if you'll notice I'm only using a riving knife here. I would use my blade guard. But since I've been moving stuff around in here, my blade guard is found in an unknown home. So I'll get that on in a later video. Planer moved over here, and see if I can do that next step without stopping the camera. I'm finding that that's kind of a chore, trying to do this and work with the camera at the same time. All right, turn on the dust collector. That's not perfectly flat, but that's flat enough for me to flip it over and try the other side. I don't want to plane a whole bunch on one side without paying attention to the other. But I've got it to where it's just got the paper towel scraped off the front. So now let me go ahead and flip it over and do the other side. I've given this thing about a quarter turn. Quarter turn is supposed to be about 1/64 of an inch. You'd be surprised how aggressive that can be on some different woods. So you're seeing a lot of saw chips coming out of this. And one of two reasons it's happening. Either I'm plugged up in here because of my homemade dust extraction on the end of this planer, or as it's been happening, I'm plugged up there where the dust collector is. So let's find out what's happening here. Okay, I'm not getting a lot of dust chips here, which means it's probably right here. Let's take a look. I don't think they ever made a chip extractor for this model. What they got is a fan that blows the chips out and blows it all over the place. Yeah, that's what's happened here. And so when you get too aggressive, as I've been doing, the chips get too big to make it through that fan. And so it just plugs up, and then all your chips start coming out on your work surface. The problem has been, if you're wondering why I'm taking such big bites out of the wood, it's not intentional. A quarter turn on my knob is supposed to be, now this is an old planer, but it's supposed to be a 64th of an inch. I'm not giving it a full quarter turn. I'm giving it, I don't know, something less. But I've learned not to trust it, and so I try to do it by feel. And a quarter turn one time doesn't seem to be the same as a quarter turn another time. I've even tested this with wood that's been perfectly dimensioned on somebody's really good planer, and maybe I'll get a really good planer one of these days. But it's just how it is. Plus, I'm not using one of those fancy Helix planer blades. I'd like one. I don't down talk them at all. I think everything about them sounds great, but I don't have one. And I'm not looking forward to the process of installing one in this planer. Just taking this planer apart, as I've done like once before, it's a chore. This is a Home Depot rigid 13-inch, I think it's a 1711 model. But for my purposes, it's been working fine, but it might be time for me to upgrade. So let's try this again. That little tiny turn I just gave it, you would have thought I cranked it around 100 times, but it just, and I've still got a plug. So I'm going to go up there, fix that, come back and finish this up. Well, that settles it. That clog took me a lot longer to find and fix than it was supposed to. And really the whole problem is my dust collection from the planer goes from here to the wall, makes a 45, and another 45 goes down the wall, makes another 45, goes up. It's got some turns it's got to make because my dust collector is way up there. So, and the chips in this thing, you know, it's a planer. The chips are a lot bigger. They're not sawdust, they're saw chips. And so they get plugged up. So I'm going to go ahead and get a Cyclone dust separator to keep down here, so that way all the chips, they stay down here, easy to dump. Anyway, so with that being done, let me run this through one more time. So we got the calipers. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but I got 1.91 inches here, and hopefully pretty close to the same thing back here. Yeah, 1.90. So that's good enough. I've also discovered, I don't know if you can see this, but these blades are pretty new. I doubt that's going to show up on the camera, but they're apparently chipped. And for this project, it doesn't matter because I'm not planing this down to final thickness. I'm just getting this to where it's flat and ready to get on the CNC. But it's going to be time for another set of planer blades, which I've got. But I don't know, man. This might be a good opportunity to switch up to that Helix head. Because that way, when you got a bad spot, you don't replace all the blades, you just replace the one chipped one. So, might have to do that. So let me get this up on the CNC and get the holes drilled in it for its mounting. Let's try that out.